Bullies ripped quiet girl's shirt in front of class as she kicked a desk and everyone went silent. They tore her shirt in front of the entire class, not with hesitation, not by accident, but with calculated cruelty. The seam split with a sound that echoed louder than any scream she had ever buried inside. Her eyes went wide, her arms snapped up, trembling hands grasping what little fabric was left. It was too late. Laughter burst through the room like wildfire, gasps followed. Some looked away, ashamed. Others watched with that awful curiosity people have when someone else is in pain. Her humiliation wasn't private, it was a show, and she was the unwilling star. And then something inside her snapped. Rhea didn't speak. She didn't cry. She didn't plead. She kicked. A desk shot backward with a thunderous crash, slamming into the wall. Her face was on fire, her breath ragged, her chest heaving beneath the ripped fabric. The room once so loud fell into dead silence. No one had ever seen her like this. Not quiet little Rhea, not the girl who didn't make eye contact, not the girl who moved like she was trying to disappear. But at that moment, she wasn't quiet anymore. She was fire. She was done. If you believe in kindness, a broken bar, if you believe in second chances, in the strength of quiet souls and the power of standing up when no one expects sight, please take a second to like this video, subscribe to Echoes of Life, and share this story with someone who needs to know that they are not alone. Every view and comment helps these stories reach those who are still silent, still hurting, still waiting to be seen. Her name was Rhea Morgan, 16, junior, barely spoke above a whisper. She walked the halls of Street Everland High like a shadow, slipping past crowds, her head low, her books clutched like shields. She wore the same clothes every week, oversized gray hoodie, faded jeans, scuffed sneakers. Her hair was always tied back into a limp ponytail, like even that part of her was afraid to draw attention. In classrooms, she sat at the far back. In cafeterias, she ate alone, usually in the library or behind the gym, where no one noticed her. And in the yearbook, her picture would barely be visible, the ghost among the living. She hadn't always been like this. There was a time, once, when Rhea smiled, when she laughed at her brother's jokes, when she danced barefoot in the backyard during summer storms. But that Rhea had faded somewhere between her father leaving and the whispers at school turning into full-blown mockery. The change started small, a group project where no one wanted to be her partner, a birthday party she wasn't invited to, a whisper when she walked into class, a note taped to her locker with the words "Rats smell better than Rhea." No one said it outright, but it was clear, she didn't belong. And then came the girls, Lena, Brooke, and Tasha. They weren't just popular, they were powerful. Captain of the soccer team, head of the student committee. The girls everyone followed, not out of friendship, but fear. They had perfect hair, perfect grades, perfect lives, or so it seemed. But they fed off weakness, off silence, off girls like Rhea. At first, it was just teasing. Cute outfit, they'd say, laughing behind her. Is it from a trash bin? Then it became physical. A shove in the hallway, a tray of food accidentally knocked onto her lap, her backpack emptied in the bathroom, lipstick messages on the mirror. Mute girls don't need mirrors. The worst part, no one helped. Not the teachers who saw but stayed quiet, not the classmates who looked away, not even the counselor, who once smiled at her and said, maybe if you spoke up more, they'd leave you alone. So Rhea stayed silent, not because she was weak but because she believed no one would listen anyway. At home, things weren't better. Her mother worked late hours at a diner. Her older brother, Caleb, was barely home, drifting between couch surfing and minimum wage jobs. The house was quiet, cold, and filled with the kind of exhaustion that weighs on her chest. Her mom used to ask if she was okay, but over time, even those questions stopped. No one noticed when Rhea cried herself to sleep. No one noticed when she stopped drawing of the only thing she had once loved. No one noticed her at all, until that Monday morning. It was October. The trees had started to shed, the sky hanging heavy with gray. Rhea wore her brother's old hoodie, the one with the frayed sleeves and faint cigarette smell. It was warm, familiar, her shield. She walked into second period literature class, and everything changed. Lena was already there, her phone in hand, her voice loud as ever. Brooke and Tasha sat beside her, smirking. Rhea tried to walk past them like usual, but this time, Lena stood up. "Hey Rhea," she said, her voice too sweet, too fake. "Nice hoodie. What did you do? Dig it out of the trash behind the gas station?" Snickers followed. Rhea kept walking. Then Brooke stepped behind her. "Wait, hold on, what's that?" she whispered, pulling at the fabric. Before Rhea could turn, Lena grabbed the front of her hoodie. One brutal yank and the fabric tore. It happened fast, too fast. The front of her hoodie split open, the zipper giving out, and her undershirt, a thin, old tank top, was exposed. Her arms flew up, trying to cover herself. She stumbled back, her books dropped. The laughter came instantly, sharp and cruel. Even the quiet students, the ones who never participated, giggled behind their hands. The shame was volcanic. It seared through her. But instead of tears came fury, unfiltered, raw, electric fury. Her leg moved on instinct. She kicked the nearest desk with everything she had. It flipped onto its side and slammed against the classroom wall. The metal clanged like a gunshot, and the room fell silent. Every face turned pale. Even Lena's smirk vanished. Rhea stood there, breathing hard, her chest rising and falling, her hair wild, her eyes wide, unblinking, stormy. No one said a word, not the students, not the teacher who walked in seconds later, stunned. No one dared, because something inside Rhea had finally awakened. That moment spiraled fast. The principal was called. The girls were pulled from class. Statements were taken. Parents were notified. The story spread across the school like wildfire. "Did you hear what happened to Rhea Morgan?" Everyone had a version of it. Most were exaggerated, but all agreed Rhea wasn't invisible anymore. The bullies were suspended for a week, but their punishment meant little to Rhea, because the damage wasn't skin deep, it was soul deep. What they tore wasn't just fabric, it was the illusion that silence kept her safe. She stayed home for a few days after that, not because she was afraid but because she needed space to breathe, to think, to feel. She stared at the ceiling for hours, wrote in old journals, drew again for the first time in months, dark sketches, flames, storms, girls with fire in their eyes. And when she finally returned to school, everything had changed. She walked into the hallway expecting stares, whispers, giggles, and they came, but mixed in with them were nods, smiles. "Hey Rhea," from people who never said her name before. Some classmates told her they were sorry. Some said they admired her courage. Some didn't say anything, but the way they looked at her had changed. She still sat alone, but it didn't feel lonely anymore. It felt strong. A week later, her literature teacher gave the class an assignment: write a short story about a moment that changed everything. Rhea stared at the blank paper for an hour, and then, like something burst open inside her, she began to write. She titled it "The Silent Earthquake." It wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about pain. It was about power. About how sometimes, the quietest people hold the loudest storms. How pressure builds over years, and how one crack, one rupture can shift everything. Her teacher read the story 3 times, then submitted it without telling Rhea to the district competition. She won first place. She was invited to read it aloud at the awards ceremony. At first, she said number. Her voice still trembled when too many eyes were on her, but her teacher gently encouraged her. So did the librarian, who had started keeping a quiet table just for her. And so Rhea stood on that stage, microphone in hand, a spotlight on her face. She read her story, and her voice, though soft, did not shake. That night, her mother cried. Her brother texted her, "Proud of you, kid." And Rhea, a broken bar. Rhea smiled, a real smile, one that reached her eyes. Weeks passed, then months. She joined the school's art club, helped paint a mural in the library, submitted more stories to contests, made a few quiet friends, girls who had once been shadows like her. She never became loud, never wore flashy clothes, never tried to fit in, but she no longer tried to disappear. And the most beautiful part, she inspired others. One girl, Maddie, came up to her and said she was being bullied too. Rhea sat with her during lunch. They drew together. Another boy, Jason, shared that he used to eat alone. Rhea invited him to their quiet corner of the library. She had found a voice, and she used it not to shout, but to reach, to lift, to echo. If this story touched your heart up, if it reminded you of the times you were quiet, a broken bar, and visibly, please take a moment now to like, comment, and subscribe to Echoes of Life. Your support helps these stories reach someone who needs them right now. Someone like Rhea, someone like you once were. Let's remind the world that silence is not weakness, it's waiting. And now, before this story ends, I have one special request. Please drop a comment below that simply says, "I see you, Rhea." Let's flood the comments with those words. Let's build a wall of strength for everyone who's ever been worn down. For every silent soul still holding it in. For every teenager hiding their pain behind locked bathroom stalls. For every quiet girl, quiet boy, quiet Indiana who deserves to be seen. Let them know they are not alone. Let them know their voice matters. Because sometimes, the loudest change begins with the quietest person in the room. And when they finally speak a broken bar, the world listens.